"Who was that guy?" one of the twins said as he accepted Andre's hand to stand up from the ground. "I'm not sure. I haven't seen that ability before either," Andre replied. "Most likely an original that's on this planet or an independent traveler." "Hey, I think you better come and take a look at this," Andy shouted to the others. The three of them prodded along, and when their eyes made contact with what Andy was looking at, the two twins nearly keeled over from the shock. That's the king-tiered beast we fought against before," the twins shouted. They had fought several times against the king beast as a team without Andre, so they knew the strength of the beast. "What do you think happened?" Andy asked. Andre then knelt beside the beast and started fleshing out certain parts of the beast's cadaver. They knew what he was doing. He was looking for the beast's crystal. It was located where the human heart would be, slightly to the left of the middle of the chest. The extracted crystal didn't look common at all. It was clearer and wasn't as murky and didn't radiate any light at all. "I'm surprised. There's still a crystal inside? How come it wasn't extracted?" one of the twins said. "Perhaps it was killed recently," Andy replied. "Perhaps the creature and the strange man from before were the ones that killed it?" Andy said. "They were the only ones here at the time." "No," Andre replied. "There were others here as well." While saying this, Andre looked in the direction of Vorden and the others. On the cold floor of an abandoned building, Fex could be seen lying on the floor. Quinn didn't want to wake him up. He had gone far and beyond for the safety of others. "Maybe vampires aren't as bad as you say," Quinn said to the system. Thankfully, Quinn was able to hide his identity using the costume and mask Logan had created for him. Also, Fex was unrecognizable as the bloodsucker. He had his uniform on, but in the fight with the king-tiered beast, it was badly damaged and had been rendered unrecognizable. The travelers looked like they were trying to help Vorden and Peter. Once Fex woke up, Quinn would go and meet up with them before they left the cave. But before all of that, there was still one thing he wanted to check out before leaving: the tower. Finally, with Fex sleeping away, Quinn had a chance to look at all the rewards, other than the EXP and the blood ability increase he had received. With the increase in blood skills, all his attacks related to blood skills had gotten stronger, but the most impressive of them all was the blood bank. It was now able to store double the amount of blood at 200 milliliters. Quest reward, unlock one ability skill. It seemed to be related to the shadow skill. New skill, Shadow Eater unlocked. He would look at the details of the skill later. He was a bit upset when he found out that he wasn't able to grab the king-tiered beast crystal, but in return, it seemed like the system had given him something else. Small blood crystal 1 obtained. That is a very rare item. Although you have no use for it now, I suggest you store it in your system for safekeeping, the system stated, refusing to elaborate. But hearing the system say such a thing was precious, it still placed a smile on Quinn's face. The last two notifications were the strangest. Quest, reach level 20 for next evolution. Reward, next evolution Vampire Noble. Additional rewards will be revealed once rank has been reached. Quest, part 1 of 2. The king has been defeated, and now the tower is left unprotected. Search the tower and discover what treasure it was trying to protect. Suddenly, he heard someone groaning behind him. It looked like Fex was waking up. "What the hell happened?" Fex said, looking around at where he was. He then looked down and noticed the flask on the floor. Images of his transformation into bloodsucker appeared in his head, and he remembered everything that happened. "You saved me?" Fex said. "Come on, I can explain while we're making our way over," Quinn replied. "Over where?" "To the tower." The group of travelers had regrouped and were heading toward the students. Lily had been watching the fight carefully and wanted to join in, but she knew her duty was to stay by the students' side in case anything happened. As she saw the two twins walking over groggily, she rushed over to their side. "Are you both all right? I saw what happened. Who was that guy?" she asked as she gave her shoulder to one of the bald twins. "That's what we want to know as well," Andre replied. "You students, your uniform, I assume you are from one of the military bases out on an outing. Second year, right?" "We're first years. What is the military thinking sending in first years? Have the times gotten that desperate?" "Well, if you look at the structures around us, perhaps," Andre said. "I wanted to ask you guys, what happened? The king-tier beast on the ground. Did you see what happened to it? And do you know what that other creature was? And last of all, what about the strange demon-masked man?" Peter, Vorden, and Layla wanted to keep their mouths shut. "That king-tier beast, it was killed by me." Another voice interrupted before Sia was able to finish her sentence. "Logan, are you okay?" Layla asked. "I'll live," Logan replied. "It took everything I had with the help of my friends here. but we were finally able to kill the king tier beast. As for the strange person who appeared at the end, your guess is as good as ours. He only appeared when you guys saw him as well." Andre started to think about Logan's words. They were convincing. Also, it was hard to imagine why the students would even lie in this type of situation when they had seen firsthand that the creature was trying to kill them. On the other hand, there was also Sia. She didn't know who the masked man was while the others did, but what she did know was that Fex was the one who had turned into a monster, and Quinn was nowhere to be seen after killing the king tier. She wasn't completely stupid. Quinn had been using the red aura attacks, and the masked man had done the same. Most likely Quinn was trying to protect Fex. "Okay, I've decided then," Andre said. "Let's take them back to the shelter." The students and the group of travelers started to head out of the small town. While doing so, Vorden and Layla would constantly look around, hoping to find Quinn and Fex. "I hope you bring me a nice souvenir to work on from that tower, Quinn," Logan thought. "Logan, I don't think I can hold it in for much longer." "What? If you want to go to the toilet, just go. It's too dark here anyway. Nobody will see anything." "No, it's not that." Hearing those words, Logan knew straight away what Peter meant. He was hungry. Before heading off to the tower, Quinn made sure of two things. The first thing was that his MC points were fully restored. The second thing was that he was fully equipped with all his equipment. Of course, that included his suit, which was made by Logan. There was no more blood in the flask. Fex had consumed all of it, and in doing so, it looked like his wounds were healing too. The armor that Logan created gave him some additional defense. Although it wasn't much, every little increment would help, and this was his reason for putting it on. "Are you all ready then?" Quinn asked Fex. "Quinn, wait!" Fex said as he rushed over and bowed down on one knee with his fist on the floor. "Whoa, what's this all about?" "I have to do this, please. Quinn, you saved my life. I remember everything that happened while I was the bloodsucker. You fought against those travelers and risked me chasing after you. Finally, you used the flask that I had given you to save me." This whole time, he had been getting closer to Quinn for one reason, to save his own back. If he was ever to be found out by his clan, then Fex's idea was to turn Quinn in as one of the shadow users, while Quinn had never thought about abandoning him. Fex no longer cared about how he was able to do it, or why he seemed to keep growing stronger. He had just had this feeling of guilt over his heart that he wanted to get rid of. "I'm on your side, Quinn." Quinn didn't know what to say. At the time, Quinn had only done what he felt was right. Fex had risked his life to save the whole group. What right did he have to die by the hand of strangers? Quinn didn't know why, but he naturally walked over to Fex and extended his hand. Fex, in return, naturally took it and lifted himself. "We're blood brothers from now on," Fex said with a smile. "We may not be related by blood, but I will treat you as a part of my family. And I will do the same." After slowly creeping their way towards the tower, by going through buildings, rather than going down the open street towards the tower, it seemed like they hadn't seen a single beast on their way there. Is it the strange crystals from the top of the tower, or did the other beasts stay away from this place because of the king-tier beast? Quinn thought. The crystals shone brightly at the top, and gave off a slightly blue hue to the area below it. "We can take some time to explore if you're worried." "What do you mean?" "The others would leave with those travelers. More than likely, they already know of an exit. I asked my little Ham to follow them from above. Once he knows where the exit is, he'll come and find me." "Ham, is that the little flying bull from earlier?" "Yeah, good name, right?" Ignoring Fex's last words, Quinn continued to walk up to the tower. In the middle of the door, there was a circular hole that seemed to go a few inches deep. "It's a lock," Fex said. "These doors, I've seen them in my castle before. They're impossible to open without some type of key or mechanism. They're meant to even withstand attacks from the vampire leaders." "Doesn't that mean there's something important here?" "Yeah, but I don't know what." Going up to the door, Quinn decided to try and give it a push using all his strength. He was half expecting it to do something, but as Fex had informed him, it didn't budge at all. "I told you it was pointless, man. Don't give up yet," the system said. "Do you remember that red blood crystal you received from defeating the king-tier beast? Why don't you place that on the door and see what happens?" He took out the crystal from his inventory and placed it in the strange hole inside the door. The gears shifted and the door pulled inwards, opening a way up inside the tower. "Are you coming?" Ham was up in the air while looking down at the fairly large town. It was slowly following the group of students, along with the travelers, to see where they were heading. "I hope Master is all right," Ham said. "Peter, how long can you hold out? Until we get outside, I might be able to do something by then." Peter immediately looked up at Logan from his position. His eyes were starting to show a slight tint of red in them. "Okay, looks like you won't last that long." Finally, the group had reached one of the tunnels that led out of the city. While walking through the tunnels, Logan had come up with an idea. "So with all these tunnels, how do you guys know the way out? These tunnels are like a maze, and they either seem to loop with each other or all end up going back to the original town we just left from. In the end, we never found an exit, so we decided to create our own. In one of the tunnels, we marked ourselves." Logan had scanned the place before coming down, so he knew there was a space between the surface and the ground they were currently on, and was prepared for it. It was a sad thought, but some of the other students were consumed by the strange, plant-like beast. All Logan needed to do was to make them split up with the others and search through the tunnels for one of these dead students that Peter could feed on. Finally, the group exited the tunnel and entered another larger section with several more tunnels. The second they entered the room, though, Peter loudly screamed as if he was in pain. It seemed too sudden. By Logan's predictions, they should have had more time. Looking around the room, though, he soon spotted the cause. His theory was right. Some students had fallen to their deaths after being consumed by the plant because there were a couple of students in front of them. The smell and sight of the students had caused a reaction inside him. Not knowing what to do, Logan rushed towards Peter with his suit still on and picked him up from the ground. Peter remained motionless in the same position, not even moving his hands. He just kept groaning. Right now he was using every bit of energy and was concentrating on not lashing out and going toward the students. But even more so, he didn't want to bite his friend Logan, who was carrying him right now. Logan kept running with Peter on his shoulder, picking a tunnel at random. "Wait, what are you doing?" Lily shouted. The others had already gone over to inspect the other students to see if they were still alive and if there was anything they could do. Unaware of the commotion going on behind them, they only realized something was happening when Lily shouted out to them. "Wait!" Lily shouted out again, genuinely concerned for the two, so she decided to chase after them. Suddenly, Logan's hand had transformed into one of his blasters. He aimed it at the ceiling and blasted it away, causing the tunnel to crumble down, blocking the path between them. "We should go after them," Lily suggested. "No," Andre replied. "Couldn't you see it? The other student caused the tunnel to collapse on purpose. For now, it's best if we leave that mystery unsolved and head back to the base." The group continued to walk through the tunnels, while also instructing the students to look away from the dead bodies. "Why do you think they ran off?" Layla asked Vorden. "If I was to guess, it would have something to do with Peter again. Logan wouldn't put his neck out on the line like that for no reason." "Do you think Logan will be okay? What if Peter gets hungry again and tries to eat Logan?" "Impossible. Trust me, by now you should have been able to tell. Logan is not the one to worry about if the two of them get into a fight. It's Peter." Although that might have been the case before, Logan had used up several of his trump cards in the fight against the King-tier beast. He was also a bit injured from the battle, and lastly, Quinn had grown stronger from the fight. That meant Peter had to as well. Once the doors were fully opened, several torches lit up inside the tower, as if leading the way for the two of them. "You have entered a vampire tomb. Quest, explore the tower is now in progress." Quinn thought, "System, did you know what this was?" "I had my guesses, but I couldn't be so sure," the system replied. "These are two things I should warn you about before you proceed. First, a vampire tomb doesn't necessarily mean a vampire is dead. A vampire can choose to go into eternal slumber, which is similar to death but not the same. Eternal slumber means a vampire has chosen to go to sleep forever themselves. It's a permanent state, and there is only one way to be woken up from it, by consuming the blood of someone of the same family. My guess is two things. Either the vampire was a powerful one, and his magic was so great he was able to convince the King-tier beast to act as a guard. To keep it under its control for so long, it handed the blood crystal which you obtained after defeating the beast. My second guess would be that after the beast found the blood crystal, it was compelled to this area. Something was telling it that there was something powerful inside, and it didn't know how to use it. At the same time, it couldn't leave this place due to its curiosity of power." Excited by this prospect, he started to jog after Fex. who had gone quite a way ahead. After they both followed the torches down the path, it eventually led them to a large staircase leading upward. The two of them powered through the many stairs and didn't feel very tired. However, they did feel like the stairs would go on forever and were wondering when they would end. Finally, the stairs had leveled out onto a platform, and another large door could be seen. It was the same size as the one at the entrance, only this one didn't have a strange lock-like mechanism. Up ahead after the platform were even more stairs leading up, suggesting they hadn't reached the top yet. With a strong push, the doors opened. Torches around the room suddenly lit up. It was a fairly large square room, but at the same time it was completely bare. There was nothing inside the room apart from 5 podiums in the center of the room. Each podium had an item on it. They were pieces of armor, a chest piece, a leg piece, an arm piece, and a helmet. Lastly, on the final podium, was a ring. "This is ancient old vampire combat armor. Maybe you can wear this," Fex said as he picked up the ring of the podium. In an instant, the room felt like it was starting to shake. "What did you do?" Quinn complained. A strange circular cylinder-like shape lifted from the podium and covered each of the items. The cylinder went all the way up to the ceiling of the room they were in. Once the cylinders were formed, the vibration stopped, and it didn't seem like anything else was going to happen. Seeing what had happened, Quinn could only assume the other items were locked away once Fex had picked up the ring. Perhaps the same thing would have happened after touching any of the items. Maybe the vampire who slept here was giving them a choice. A reward for discovering the place, but rather than give them everything, he gifted them a single piece of his treasure. "Here," Fex said, as he threw the ring over to Quinn. He caught the ring in the air and took a look at it. "Inspect. A king-tier blocking ring. When used on a vampire, it will completely block the effects of sunlight, as long as the ring is worn." With this ring, the one weakness Quinn possessed had disappeared. A huge smile went over his face as he quickly placed the ring on. When Logan turned back to look down the tunnel from where they came from, he had saw that no one had followed them. Even with Peter on his shoulder, he never slowed down. He kept running down the tunnel until they eventually reached an open space that had a lot of different paths and tunnels for them to choose from. It was similar to one of the areas where they had just come from. "Let go of me!" Peter shouted, with his eyes now fully red and glowing in the dark. Logan felt the weight on his shoulder was about to shift. He could tell that something was up, and immediately threw Peter off his shoulder, slamming him onto the ground. Peter lifted his head and got a glimpse of Logan, who now had his blaster pointed toward him. "You're still in there, right, Peter?" said Logan. But Peter suddenly started to seize. His body furiously shook as he thrashed around on the floor. Looking for some kind of solution, Logan picked out and held out his altered hand scanner. If it just worked, then he would be able to scan the tunnels and find out where the other deceased students were located. Instead of walking through blindly and playing their chances, they would at least have some benchmark as to where they should go. But for some reason, ever since coming down underground, the scanner was useless. "Why won't you work?" Logan said, and Peter was now standing in front of him with his head facing down towards the ground. It was unknown whether he had recovered his sanity or if he had already been taken over by his hunger and primal urges. After Quinn and Fex realized that there was nothing the two of them could do to retrieve their items, they decided to leave the room. On the final platform, there was another large, arch-shaped double door like the one before. It also had no lock, and all the two needed to do was push it open with their 2 hands. Just like every room they had entered before, the lights started to light up one by one, revealing what the room looked like. From the door to the center room was a large red carpet. It reached the center, where there was a very large circle on the ground. Past this was a red carpet on the other end of the circle, which continued forward until it eventually reached a large chair. Looking at the large chair, or throne, it looked like only a person of significance would be allowed to sit in such a place. That was when Quinn spotted something while looking at the throne, but just behind the chair, a little bit above, it looked like a clear glass pane, and inside was a large sword-like weapon. The sword didn't look regular, even though it was locked away behind a glass casing. It seemed to have several black chains wrapped around it, from the hilt up to the tip of the blade. While looking at the blade closer, he could tell it was a beast blade rather than just a regular sword. The handguard seemed to be quite scaly and rocky. It was red and had a pattern that matched the armor they had seen earlier. Between the handguard and the bladed part was a red gem. It looked very similar to the crystal that Quinn had obtained after defeating the King Tier beast. From the crystal, inside the sword, a single red line ran up the blade until the tip, placing his clawed gauntlet fingertips on the glass pane covering it. He started to use all his strength, hoping to make a scratch or an indentation. Just like with all of the materials they had discovered before in the tower, it was almost unbreakable for him. He took a step back, and once again the room seemed to slightly vibrate. In front of the sword, a podium started to rise. The vibration stopped in the room, and so did the podium. On top, there was a diamond-shaped hole. As he gently ran his fingers over the top of the podium, another message appeared. "Would you like to insert your blood crystal? Once inserted, the blood crystal may not be removed. Yes? No?" "What exactly can a blood crystal be used for?" Quinn asked the system in his head. The system said, "The blood crystal can be used as a beast crystal. They are used to either create armor or weapons. The unique thing about a blood weapon is that it can evolve and grow stronger. However, depending on the crystal used, there is a limit to its growth and also its starting point. What you have right now in your hand is the lowest tier of blood crystals." He looked at the weapon behind the glass case once again, and it was like nothing he had seen before. "Is that a blood weapon?" "Yes," the system replied. "Small blood crystal has been inserted." The room started to shake slightly once again, and the podium, along with the crystal, started to sink into the ground slowly. "Quest explore the tower complete." After standing there for a few moments, he quickly realized that nothing was happening. The glass covering the sword was still there. Somewhere else, underground at the same time, Logan was backing steadily away, holding out his blaster at Peter. He hadn't made any moves yet, but he could see his body slowly breathing in and out, not moving a step from his position. Using one of his hands, he picked up the scanner and immediately turned it on. For some reason, the scanner was online. After quickly scanning the tunnels around them, Logan found what he was looking for. In one of the tunnels to his right, not too far from here, were the bodies of some students who had met an unfortunate end after falling from above. "Yes, Peter, I think I can solve your problem." In Logan's excitement, he had placed both eyes on the scan only for a brief second. When he looked up, Peter was no longer standing where he was directly in front of him. Back in the strange tower, Quinn realized what was the change he was feeling. After inserting the blood crystal into the podium, it seemed like whatever was blocking out his senses before was no longer there. He could now clearly sense Peter. With this, shock had entered his heart. Sensing Peter now, he could feel a mix of emotions and feelings rush over his mind and body. "Damn it! Is this because of the fight from before?" Quinn said. "We have to hurry and get back to the others." A process had begun when the blood crystal was inserted into the podium and went back into the floor. The center circle started to rise from the floor, and it finally stopped when it reached a height a little larger than an average human. A few seconds later, the metal circle cylinder dropped quickly back down to the ground, and left in its place was a human figure. It was a handsome male figure, with pale white skin and dark black hair that seemed to go all the way down to the person's waist. Slowly, his eyes opened and a red glow could be seen. "I wonder how long I've been asleep," the man said. Holding out his hand with his hand open, he faced it towards the weapon behind the glass. A strange force compelled it towards the man, and the weapon smashed through the glass and into the man's hand. "Let's see if anything has changed in the outside world," the man said.
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.